Dankunku Janjambure Tundo Kang wala CRR region.
Mr. Mboge, you are advised to respond after the interpretation.
Thank you.
And tell us about your education.
Yeah, I started in Dankunku Primary School. And then proceeded to Armitage High School. From 1980 to 85.
1980 kata 1985.
And then Gambia High School.
Gambia High School.
At the sixth form.
Sixth form.
From 1985 to 1987.
1985 kata 1987.
For the advanced level.
Advanced level.
GCE.
GCE.
And then I taught in Gambia High School for 1 year. From 1987 to 1989.
1987 kata 1989.
And then I proceeded to the Usman Dan Fodio University in Nigeria.
Usman Dan Fodio University Bato, Nigeria.
Where I did my LLB combined honors.
LLB honors bunya karanjele
Islamic and common law.
L'Islam and law fanna kotangol la karola.
And then I proceeded to the Nigerian Law School.
Nigeria la law karambumba.
Where I did my BL. From 1992 to 1993.
1992 kata 1993.
Your LLB must have been 3 years, correct?
4 years. LLB program 4 years from 1989 to 1992, but I was late. It was a late entry. Instead of September 88, I started in January 89.
Now follow 1989 kata 1993 sankono.
That explains the supposed discrepancy.
Exactly.
And what did you do when you returned to Gambia?
Well, I had 4 months of private practice with the doyen of the bar now, SBS Jane.
SBS Jane.
And SBS Jane would be Surahata B Jane.
Surahata BS Jane, yes, correct.
Surahata BS Jane.
And I was enrolled to the Gambian bar on the 17th of February 1994.
Nadamuta Gambia la kitindir bundala February 1994 sango konati tan wawla.
What did you do after enrollment?
Well, I started working on the bench as a magistrate from May 1994.
Nadamuta do kola ka fo bunda me bench man katara kitindiro la je kabo May 1994
up to August 1998.
For August
4 years.
August 1998 bari ngasanji nan lekewto.
Soon after your appointment as a magistrate, a serious rupture occurred in the constitutional system of this country.
Tariyarinke briye to monke ke magistrate ori tariyarinke falindri jaw natana ke men natana ke sababu falindo dol men kedna bankolwa buku bañin kono.
That is correct.
The July 22nd coup d'etat.
Men natana sababu July 22nd coup d'etat ñing.
That is correct. I was serving on the bench.
How did that coup d'etat impact on your work as a magistrate in those early days?
O coup d'etat ñing ay mun ko le akul sabu itelma ka ke kitindir lati o jamano la ko ñin damu la kuto.
I was beginning my career as a magistrate because I started in May, and then June, July, there was this coup d'etat.
Nada mutamekaro kono kanaduko datika tamandi bari bitu coup d'etat natake July 1994 sankono.
And soon after, in August, the Foroya team was arrested and brought before me as a young magistrate to try them.
Biringo batala dro wati sutun kono enata Foroya la mulumuta yenati nyati lumula ando du monte mu magistrate funding kewleti damuta lalu kono pour ngawlu kitindi.
I clearly remember that I was in court.
Not
as counsel. But I was a newly minted barrister. So I accompanied Miss Amina Koka Jang,
State Council,
to watch.
Amina Koka Jang,
I just carried her books, as would be expected of a newly minted barrister.
That is right.
And tell us about that case.
I can safely say that was the first major impact on the civic society.
Nsafono wole mukuba foloti meye kusoto jama mulu la karola banko kanjang.
Because that was the first major case that came before the courts after the coup d'etat.
Wole mkitiba foloti menata kitibunda nyati mulabirin coup d'etat botala.
And it was very tense situation.
Andong aketa kuleti meya lonko aketa kukole mtinu motumo.
Why would you say it was tense?
Yeah, because the atmosphere was just not yet ripe for those kind of cases.
Because
the coup d'etat just happened a few, I think 2 weeks after. There was a ban on publication of newspapers. And the Foroya refused to stop.
Would you say that this was the first blatant challenge to the authority of the AFPRC?
Yes, definitely, as far as I am aware, that was the first challenge to their authority.
Ntela mira rota ninna londoto wole mu bantambili foloti me ya lonko ya fintindi itella nyatilingula.
But apart from the fact that here was a challenge to the authority of a military government, which in spite of its claims of being soldiers with a difference, were prepared to hit back at any individual or institution that challenged its authority.
Silang afele jang kureda borala sojaro le bankota indun kabri be bankota ko tol mu sojar mansa kundal de me yalon ko be fatala la inin dolu silang ifele ya bankota ifele ya damuta pour ka boy do ko bundal kan me yalon ko abe jama toral.
Why? What else was there that made the environment as charged as you described it?
Monena sababu ka fo ko ya fo nyame dandaw ni narana ke dandane me yalon ko al halo nyimbe jaw yarim bagale mune o saw.
Yes, we all know the intellectual capacity of Honorable Halifa Sallah and the hard stand of Honorable Sidia Jatta. These are well-known politicians in the country.
Honorable Halifa Sallah and Honorable Sidia Jatta, many alonko wulu mu bunyari muleti nyimbanko kang political karola.
And they refused to budge to the orders of the newly formed government to stop publications.
And we balanta purka sojar mansa kunda la wakangola puru isi abula purka kibar kaitolo da balanta wala.
That obviously led to their arrest.
Budalilo le ya sabu itate muta.
And due to the fact that they had a large support, the courthouse is always full whenever the case is coming up. Capacity.
kiti bunda ka fale faye dete luwolu ndi la kito be kala je lumme.
And the police had to come in to secure and maintain law and order in the environment.
Andum fo police yena ye kanto nin tanko sabatindi pour ka luwa la kango bambandi dinkira nyinto je.
Because everyone was interested in seeing the proceedings in those days.
Atu mobe akata mobe la hammoni la finnoleti ko be tamala nyami membe kala je pour be ya long e bo kalama.
And how did the case progress?
It
was a difficult case, to be sincere, because despite the constitutional right of both Honorable Sidia and Honorable Alifa Salah, banko la nyanto aninna banko la constitutional nyanto mendi honorable Khalifa Salala and honorable Sidia Jata wo nyanto be lori nyawnyandi to engage a lawyer, a legal practitioner of their own choice.
Ruka lawyer nyini wala loi do kula me ya lonko etel fongol be la fila menna
they choose to defend themselves.
Etel mampare wala fongol le lota purka etel fongolu kalo ifaye.
And the proceedings then goes on a daily basis.
And
it takes a full day.
So
we were able to finish the trial within a month.
I wasn't there for the trial. I think I came there only once or twice. On the first day to just have a feel of what it was like in the courtroom. But what were the major challenges in the trial? For a very young magistrate, in a very young military government, and young in several aspects. The newness of the military government itself, and the youthfulness of the military rulers at the time.
Well, there was a lot of fear and tension in the atmosphere. Because the place is guarded by armed people, armed officers. And in a court of law, you're supposed to enjoy the maximum freedom, so that you will express yourself without any fear or favor. But when you look left and right and all over the place, you have officers around with weapons.
It
obviously makes you scared.
As magistrate, were you scared? Were you intimidated?
Well, sincerely, yes. I will be honest with you. Yeah, because I was not used to that kind of environment.
Well, none of us was. This was the first time we had a military government.
Yes.
And certainly this was the first time we saw weapons all over the place.
Exactly.
But apart,
scary, yes.
Apart from that fear, the weapons around you, as a magistrate, how did things around you impact your work?
Yes, I was then guided by a very seasoned principal magistrate. And was always putting me through.
Who was that?
Ogajafo.
Ikafole Ogajafo.
Ogajafo is a Liberian.
Ogajafo,
Liberian magistrate.
Ogajafo, was he Liberian or Nigerian? Ogajafo.
Ogajafo is a Liberian.
Ogajafo, but a Liberian.
A Liberian. Okay. And to be sincere, all she gave me was courage. She could have taken the case herself, but decided to shy away because of the nature of the case. The first high-profile case in the military regime, she chose to give it to a Gambian to hear the case rather than her doing it herself. Yeah, due to the intensity of the case, it did not take more than a month to conduct the trial, and another month to write the judgment. So within 2 weeks, I was able to dispose. 2 months, I was able to dispose. Of
what was the outcome? Just for the historical record.
Yes. Although they were found guilty of the offenses charged, I refused to pass a custodial, in fact, a conviction on them. Instead, I passed a suspended sentence. If they fail to stop their activities as instructed by the regime, and they appear before the court on the same or similar charges, then the suspended sentence will be handed down on them.
Essentially, strictly speaking, legally they were convicted but not
sentenced.
In a custodial sentence.
Not sentenced, yes.
That appeared to have been a workable solution in such a terrible situation, where you have the constitution suspended and you have decrees ruling and certain fundamental rights were now up in the air and could be violated by the state without any recourse to any constitutional guarantees. For you to arrive at that balance, did you go through any form of interference?
No, not at the decision. Because then there was no interference with the system. It was thereafter, seeing that the decision did not go in their favor, but
of course there was a conviction, so that went in their favor. What about the decision was not in their favor or according to their expectation?
Yeah, like I said, there was a lot of fear and tension during the trial. So the expectation was these people were going to jail because they are defying the military. Yeah, but I sense that sending them to jail would have had severe consequences on the civil society. That led to my decision to balance the equation.
o dalilo le akende ngani kangota ka ko pesa ka karafulo tembendi.
I convicted them, but I gave them a suspended sentence.
Ngaye kitini nge kulu ka sorondiro le kambari wo sorondiro ngawole den ka den santo follow.
Much to the chagrin of the military government, would you say?
Yes, certainly.
Wala na rake sojar mansa kundala kuyanye kuoti.
Exactly.
Sieloko ha.
Exactly.
And but nonetheless, you continue to work as a magistrate.
Hani kabi wanya itenda kadoka kitinirla dumalanko di bafala me magistrate.
On the first sign of their dissatisfaction with that decision
Ila taman seri follow men findita kaitan ko jusoma la wokulu la nyala
was my transfer from Banjul to Brikama Magistrates Court.
mbondi banyuno kiti bundala yensa wonde kansamba Brikama.
Soon after, how soon after the decision?
Ay wati jellelta birite o kiti wonyum kuntu wanyama ila ay wati jellelta.
This judgment was in September, and in October ending, I was transferred to Brikama. 1 month after.
Nin kan kunto keta September le kono October karkilin rong yensa wonde Brikama.
And it is your view that your transfer to Brikama was some form of punishment or expression of their disapproval?
Ambo itela mira lodo wala nyindi go transfer wala sawndiro men ketela ka Banjul Magistrates Court ke tamba Brikama wo mu akoto mina itela mira wala nyindi ko ye ko kuntu nyame wala mandi toliye.
Yes, I will say yes to that, because the principal who was there before me
Ha mba fala la ko ha katu principal wala mnyaton ko membeje no janninte bina.
spent almost 2 years before I came there.
Wes sanji fula abitale fo sanji fula nyong ay men kije janninte bina.
From May to October, within a period of about 5 months, I was moved to another jurisdiction.
Kabo May kata October amunta karil lulu dorong ina tante saundi kambondi je.
Meaning that they don't want me to continue hearing cases that are coming forth.
Wala munyenti telu malla fintenga continue kito lutala meni alon koy binala.
And for how long have you served in Brikama?
Tarda Brikama kiti bundara fo wati jelu.
I was in Brikama for 8 to 9 months.
Me Brikama karisay kata hani fo karikono ndonyo.
Until July the following year, that was in 1995.
Fo July asanaka me yalon ko wala 1995 sangoti.
I was transferred to Kanifing Magistrates Court.
En saundi kanati Kanifing kitir bundala Magistrates Court.
Was that a regular transfer, or was that also a reaction to something you've done?
O transfer ni wasa unu receive ni mukula de mealan ko adalina kule mfo fana mukula de mealan ka sujira ni mukula mealan ko walbe dumala.
Yes, certainly that was also as a result of a reaction.
Wo fana me ya sabu kule keta me ya lonko ya ayitel fana liyo saundiro ke dalilo le kan.
Because there was a breaking in the court.
Katu
Breaking and stealing.
ye dinkirale kati ye dibudale te kadun kiti bundala kasunya rokije.
I was then the single magistrate running the whole of the West Coast region.
Adun teda manno magistrate klimuti membe Brikama tundo beta mandi kanu ngotumo.
And our exhibit store was full of drugs.
Andu ngotumo fem mutaringu lumeni alonko lumu fem mutaringu leti santingu lumen katara mangasino kono. Jebe fari nun tepu sira fengolla.
And the walls of the courthouse was not cement but wooden planks.
Alun kiti bunda fangola ala sansambalo au balo amanke cement blokoti de amunta yiro lemu ye yiro le doku ke sansangoti.
And there was no outer fence to secure the building.
Alun sansando mantara bantala mensi bunyi mbula tema ka tankandi.
That led to the breaking in the office.
Wale ya sabu hanfo ye je katino kadun konoto.
And all the drugs were stolen away.
Adun sira fengo mume o membe bije ya bele sunya ya samba.
That led to my transfer.
Wala fanana take daliloti ye mbondi je kote ke yen saundi.
And how about Kanifing Court?
Kanifing kiti dunlalo.
Yes, I was in Kanifing Court
Mbelun Kanifing kiti bundala.
from 1995 to 1996.
Kama 1995 kata 1996.
And though there were many magistrates,
Tonya magistrate jamal lebe kerimu je utumo.
but then we had Nigerian magistrates as our superiors.
Bari utumo Nigeria la magistrate lebe je meni alon ko wolle mun to la nyaton ko luti.
And that led to a lot of conflict in Kanifing.
Andu waye kanwali jamana ti Kanifing kiti bundalaji.
Between magistrates.
Magistrate lu dem manglu tema.
Why?
For the simple fact that I was the only professional Gambian among the magistrates. There were second-class magistrates who were not professionals.
And what you mean by that is you are the only lawyer who's been appointed as a magistrate. You're the only qualified Gambian lawyer who was appointed to the bench as a magistrate. Yes. Of course, that time there was Musa Gassama, but proceed, please.
Yeah, Gassama was in Brikama when I was moved. He took over from me in Brikama.
Gassama benum Brikama le, bitun briente soundin an Kanifing, Musa le kunte komo ta Brikama, Musa Gassama.
We had Mr. Job.
Mr. Job
and Mr. Bachili.
Mr. Bachili.
I was with them in Kanifing, and two other Nigerians who were the principal and the senior magistrates.
And the Nigerian kafula bije Mr. Job and Mr. Bachili kola, Nigerian fululu wole magistrate kebaltinu.
We had shortage of office space.
Mankita office do kudula.
And there was only one vehicle for the whole court. And as a result, there was always a tug of war and push and pull about office space and about access to the vehicle.
And office kuala kuala.
And as a result?
Yes.
As a result?
Yes. Eventually, I got a scholarship, a Commonwealth scholarship, whilst in Kanifing to go for my postgraduate in Malta, and I went for my master's degree.
Bitu be kola lemu nata karang silo do soto. Mbe scholarship me alonko nyantata la karang la Malta banko kang puru katana postgraduate wolem makamata londi lafa kola puru katawo karang ke Malta banko kang.
And I came back in 1997.
In 1997 sangokono.
And I went to Basse Magistrates Court.
Tumolon tata Basse la magistrate kiti bunda.
As a first-class magistrate.
Ando tumo ngalodula mensuto wole magistrate first class me yalonko wole magistrate oti membe lodula follow santo pala santo konyinto.
Your stay in Basse was short-lived. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
What happened?
Well, that's where I experienced the real impact of the regime. Then we had the July 22nd movement as well.
Sojar mansa kunda fangola kulu kalangolong karotumo ni July 22nd funding ke July 22nd kafo ya londi.
What was this July 22nd movement?
July 22nd movement oni muna maati.
This was a parallel administration, not governmental, I will call it non-governmental.
Bari ñing fanan kafo mo afaye kafuleti menu be loring ifaye ko man sakunda la moyti mba fala manke man sakunda kono de bari tan fanalu lonya ni tanya abele ko ifansu man sakunda lem.
And then they were running parallel administration with the government.
Andu tumo ka kolu tamandi nyamin amunta be mararo tamandi kanne ko man sakunda fanambala mararo tamandi kan nyamin amunta be temberinne ibitaka nyola.
And Mr. Witness, what you have just said is very serious. You suggesting to us that there was a government running parallel to the de facto and de jure government. Or would you say that the July 22nd movement was the de facto government and the lawfully elected government of Yahya Jammeh was the parallel, was the de jure government? Is that what you say?
July 22nd kafo ñi membe loren wala masakundari ya jamme me alon ko ala July 22nd movement on ñi carte fay men wala masakundari me alon ko karafar masakundala.
Yes, I will agree with that because of what was happening.
But
before that, what was this July 22nd movement? How did it come about, if you can tell?
July 22nd ayatara yalo July 22nd movement kafo nying akeno ranyadi le fo alonde nota niara ilonde sota akoroba.
All right, the July 22nd, for all those who were in the jurisdiction in the Gambia,
July 22nd la kafo purumolu men bebe Gambia banko kan wotumo
all know that it was headed by the late Baba Job.
Mo be ya lonko me ya nyaton kaya lungutumo wole mtala Baba Jobti.
And because of his training in Libya, he was feared.
And what kind of training?
Well, I cannot say for certainty, but what I am made to understand was paramilitary training.
Bari nata men fahamu akokono wala minti ay kule karang me ya lonko anin sojariya do ko be dendi nyo balale.
Would you say that this July 22nd movement was a group of young men and women who tried to promote the objectives of the APRC at the time, that is, and tried to strengthen they tried to strengthen, or how would I call it, to secure what they termed or believed to be the gains of the July 22nd coup d'etat, or revolution as they would call it.
July 22nd kafo nyimu kaflet me yalon ko yalondi dalilo men kam wala nyinti ko kidiri mandiro ke APRC lat mansa kundala ko e kafo nyamen do ko woli wala gagnewol ke yiri wala karono warno ananyongol lakala pour ka kidi mandro ke wala ko.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, but I'll just add the fact that it was not only supporting and strengthening the then APRC government. But it is also doing so with intimidation. And the use of force. Whatever they decide, you dare not say no. You have to agree, otherwise there will be consequences.
Could you give us examples to justify your claim?
Yes, I had this experience in Basse. That's where we stopped. Whilst I was posted in Basse, I had a lot of issues with this July 22nd. Because they formed themselves in such a way, it's like a government within a government. They have a regional chairman. They have a divisional chairman. They have district chairpersons. And they had ordinary members called the July 22nd members. July 22nd members. July 22nd and who was the chief patron?
Jumala muila defense la nyaronko di.
Well, the chief patron then was the late Baba Job. And in Basse we had this regional chairman called, he's also late, Alhaji Banta Kamara.
Andum Basse fanang ngatundu chairman sotoje Tala Banta Kamara.
And a regional chairman also called, he's also late, Maudo Gari.
Andunga tundu chairman do fananso fanam bantale ka fo me Maudo Gari.
And these two came in conflict with the law.
Andu nyimmo fulolu ni luwa nata wali.
Because there was a case at the court, a case of murder.
Kiti sotontanum kiti bundala me yalon ko mofa kiti olemu.
And the
Who killed who?
Jumale Jumafa.
Well, if I refer to the notes, I will be able to remember the names, but it's a Senegalese against a Gambian. The Gambian was the victim.
Nina kay tolu jube mbebe tolu nonno la bari ko nyin keta nyamin Senegalin ko nin Gambian ko le dunta nyola adun ko nyin kono Gambian ko le nata fa.
And the said Maudogari, who was July 22nd chairman, was a sortie to the Senegalese.
Sortie for bail.
For bail. Bail at the police station. Sarengai police station. When I came across this file in my office, I inquired from the police prosecutors why the file is empty. It's just the bail bond in the file, no charge sheet. Well, I can recall the prosecutor who I asked was Sergeant Gay. And his immediate response was, this file has been lying here for the past 2 to 3 years. But there is nothing they can do about it. And I asked why. He said then there was a Nigerian magistrate in Basse. And he was scared of proceeding with that file. I can recall the name of the magistrate is called Inyang. And I said, but why should the file be here and nothing is done about the file? Said, well, the people involved in the case are very powerful people. I asked how, and then he explained. I said,
what did he explain?
Well, his explanation is that the sorties in that case are not only the July 22nd chairman, but even a district chief in Wuli East. And Kandakase, the late Kandakase Juara, who was the chief. So for those reasons, the magistrate is not interested in pursuing the case. I picked up the file and invited the sorties to come to court. And invited the police prosecutors to at least file a charge in the file. But the accused person is outside the jurisdiction in Senegal. But because the accused is outside the jurisdiction, we cannot make headway. So the only option was to call the sorties to go and get the accused person and bring him before the court. Well, I tried, they tried. First time they came, they couldn't find him.
Follow itata e ferolu tamandi bari imruta nang imamari jeno.
I gave them a second chance to go and find him more, another 2 weeks.
Nata lo kumfula dila kotake purisi muru fula njanke katanyi mari la kojibe.
And still they cannot find the accused person.
Adun hanimbi imamari je.
So the only option available was forfeiture. Forfeiture of the bail bond.
Wolem nyinti msemenke no nyinti wolem bail kango melotanung purusilan kafo wala kaubai.
And that led to a big conflict between myself as a magistrate and the July 22nd.
And wole nata ke fitina bati ntekmu ni July 22nd kafo la molu tema.
At least as far as you're concerned, this was your second test, your second confrontation with Yaya Jammeh's government.
Munda ite ila londo to nyina muila sinya fulanja woti me ya lonko ini Yaya Jammeh la masakunda ese nyolo soto.
Yeah, exactly, but this time at a more difficult level.
Wole mfulanja woti bari nyinsilo nyino mukoti me ya lonko wole koleata follow nyinti.
I can guess who won, but I'll have to ask the question.
Yes.
Sa fono konfele jumala ganyeta bari fonsi nyininka ro nyininka.
Yes.
What happened?
Manakera.
When I started the forfeiture proceedings,
Bringa kolu damuta puru kito bon nyinka akol nyin yelamandi.
at first they refused to pay.
Follow to ibalanta le purka jo.
The regional chairman, late Banta Kamara,
Tundu siranto nyin tala banta kamara.
insisted that that man cannot be found and so the case should be closed.
Abalanta nyine kanko meyo mo fake imajeno woto nyanta kito nyimburukalale.
And then the report came from Basse to the State House.
Adon kibaro na tabase kana kabonang State House.
And then the press secretary at the State House was also from the URR. It's called Batata Juara.
Andu wotu mo membe kibaro bunda la State House o tembo ate fango kumo bota base banko le kang ika fae Batata Juara.
And through them, they were able to file reports at the court through the master of the High Court.
Andu itelu la karola ya katano ka kibaro ludundi kiti bunda ba nyinto High Court purunyin kamala isi kuota mandi ninjela.
So that they can get me transferred from Basse.
Puru isente saundi kambondi base.
And that was a real difficult test.
Andu keta kotobor kolamoti.
Because I also insisted on forfeiting the bond to the state.
Ndefana mbalanta kango nyine kanko wo kitindir bon wo bel bon nying pour ka tamandi man sakunda nyin to ya la ko sarto ya fo nyami.
But whilst on the proceedings,
Bari mba ko tamandi kantu momen
I received the transfer from the High Court.
nga kaito soto me ya aitandina ko yen saundi le kiti bunda ba fangola kango kang.
Through the governor's office,
Ya tambindi ning safe commander wala official to governor.
that I have been transferred to Banjul Magistrates Court.
Yen saundi le sai mbita banjul kitindir bunda lela.
And I insisted,
Anim bi mfana mbalanta.
and obviously there were administrative consequences.
Tatu watembo mara lola karola fanan tukumulu soto ntamenu bulita.
How did you insist?
Ita balanta nyadi le.
Yeah, I insisted based on the fact that I moved to Basse with my family,
Lota nyina kanko nteni na dimbaya lubele sa untanan kana base.
with 2 school-going children.
Dindim fula bembulu melu bita kankaram moto.
And in the middle of the year,
Andun sangot tema fanang
I cannot get transferred
iten saundi nola
and leave the children behind.
o dindimulu tunkoma.
And at the same time, I cannot move them because it's going to affect their academics.
Andun wo tembo ntewulu fongolu kuma fanan saundi nola.
So we
Kato
ended-
abela karamu nasi ndilale.
We ended up at the office of the Chief Justice. Then Algali was the Chief Justice.
Labanta Chief Justice la official to tumo algali walem Chief Justice.
We had 3 sittings with the CJ, the then CJ,
Na sinya sabale soto siyo ningo tumo CJ.
with the master of the High Court.
Ani master member High Court no walem
But on each
Who was
sitting,
that at the time?
Jumala mu master tin wo wato la.
then it was Usman Jammeh.
tumo ika famari en Usman Jammeh.
But on each sitting,
Bari na siwo si ben wo ben
there's a different complaint.
kukutale ka fintije memu wasi dati.
It's all geared towards getting me from Basse.
Bari ya bebe lorin kukilimole noma pour kante bondi Basse.
By who?
Kabona Njuma kan.
From the then July 22nd, that's the late Banta Kamara and Maudogari himself.
Well, July 22nd la unyaton kulu la utundu siranti ulu. Wala be lorin nyinko kandro Banta Kamara and Ngari pour kante bondi Basse.
They succeeded to an extent. It nearly led to my termination.
Silo sotole hanfo akwenye njamfata. Andun demandim fango abenado ko tinyala.
But it eventually led to my termination when I was in the Banjul Magistrates Court, when I was eventually moved with the use of force.
Bari inata force ole ke kan saundi na Banjul Magistrate kiti bundala butu kola lo minata na do ko burka.
How was force applied?
Force o ye muna fanni force o la ikanyali le.
Well, my official vehicle was the first that was taken away from me.
Na do kura moto yewole folo tambulu.
And then I applied for leave.
Na safero ke pour lifo dinna.
Leave was granted.
Isonta ye lifo dinna.
Before my return,
Ya nimbe murula nang.
another magistrate, B.Y. Kamara, was posted to replace me in Basse.
Ya magistrate do nati BY Kamara pour we sa intela pala soto Basse.
So when I came back from leave,
Rimbota na lifo la.
I wanted to resume in Basse.
Ndafta kaduko choki kote ke Basse.
But Mr. Kamara, B.Y. Kamara, he's also late.
Bari BY Kamara atenyi saying atefamu mantara caring about tambitale.
He was given instructions not to move from the quarters and not to hand over the vehicle.
Andu yenyine fire kanaboje andu nga kanamoto nyindina.
So I had no choice but to comply.
Bari bitun fere do manna tarambulu nsonta.
What year was this?
Ingere sanjumala.
This was all in 1997.
Imbekere 1997 sangole kono.
And in 1998 you were sacked.
And 1998 sango kono inata ne bay.
What precipitated that?
Mune nata na sababu wala.
It's the extension of the same case from Basse.
Atewo ku kilimo yole tentendi ku men damu tata Basse yole tentendi wotu unya.
Because when I was transferred to Banjul Magistrates Court,
Atubiri en saundi nan kana Banjul Magistrate kiti bundala.
the same group of July 22nd
Atewo kafu kilimo July 22nd molu.
orchestrated a plan
Ye ferocity.
by filing different types of complaints
Amunta ye wasida jamal lela nyokang ye menu parendi.
and sent it all to the master, then Master Usman Jame.
Andu yolu be ki kiti bulla la nyaton ko le kangotu mo ka fame master atelom Usman Jammeti.
And whilst I was sitting in Banjul Magistrates Court,
Bitu tumo wambe sirin Banjul Magistrate kiti bulla la.
I just received a suspension letter
Na letter o soto ka foko yen na do ko londi le follow ya denne.
even before I was heard,
Ani janni bente fangola kuma kangolu moyla.
and then asked to reply
Andu inata fu nyenge jabi.
to those allegations within 1 month.
Rui wolio tu mirolu wolio kala mirolu menu fontema kunga ulube jabi karekilimo wuce okono.
And that suspension went on for 14 months.
Andu wo dendiro yenna do ko mellondi wo nyatata hani fo kari tang ani nani sanji kilin karifula.
And then I was eventually terminated.
Do ko la lom inata na do ko londi yem dandi do ko la yem bay.
What were the allegations against you?
Mune tumiri daldi menu ne kan.
If you choose to tell.
Yes,
of
course.
Mba folale.
This is no secret.
Manke kuloti.
Because the first is abuse of official vehicle. They said I use it privately.
Iko nka do kuram moto officer la moto iko nka oleta nka mfamuna fangala amunta ngala silo tinya jele foloto.
And secondly, there was a complaint of damaging the vehicle that was assigned to me.
Fulanja wolem nyinti ko moto nyintinya le mendina.
And thirdly, I was accused of traveling outside the jurisdiction without leave from the PMO.
Andu inatafo fana ntamata le kabotundo kambedo ko la damen andu wayatara man kangota do ku bunda nyaton ko bulu melno marta masakunda do kula lubela ka fole PMO.
And then financial complaints such as receiving court fines.
Andu inatana fuluko fana ndabuli je ko bitun alamani rolu melu ka kiti bunda la ka folo kadunde bulule.
And then conversion of the same.
anin kawo quota ka falin ka yelemandi
conversion of the fines, I mean, changing them to your own use.
awala mnyindi ka konyim falin ka yelemandi ka kodota ka kem fansunta tin kamuna fangala
Essentially
Misappropriation of funds.
amunda wala mnyindi ka kodoleta memman kentati.
Those were the basic complaints.
Itel wasita wolla
But they are all in writing, and I've responded to those allegations.
yolu be safe kaytol le bala andu ngelo kuma kawlu be jabile
And I've proven them all to be false.
andu na CDR koyo soto kaytandiro ka be mu kuma soto balolleti
But due to the then power of the July 22nd,
bar wotumo July 22 mo kafu sembe ma baleti wo ya sabu
I eventually got terminated instead of getting back to work.
inata laban bayla do kola manna muruno do kola kotake.
But then, what did you do after you left the employment of the government?
Silang itinara na muneke bring ibota masakunda do ko.
Well, before that, I really wanted to make a case in the courts.
Janio be kala lafta kiti mama ndila nun lafta kubulindila nun kiti bundala.
First, with the unlawful suspension.
Follow ye nadu ko den ka londi follow me yalon ka ni luwa mantanyola.
I fully believe that the decision to suspend me from my work was unfair.
Katu ngani mutako yo watu menta wonya kamfanyo ndi do ko la ka fo ye nadu ko den de follow amantiling.
My father advised me not to do so because it can lead to consequences as well.
Mfama nata yamare akonye kana woke.
So I waited until my termination. I wanted to file another claim for unlawful termination. But my father insisted that I should not do so. And that's how I started private practice since 1998.
In the meantime, what happened to the case against Kande Kase? Was it Kande Kase Joara and Maudo Ngari?
Mune narana ke Kande Kase Joara and Maudo Ngari la case ni narana la nyadi le.
I started forfeiting the bond because the bond then, the bail bond was $20,000 each.
Nada mutanumpruka wa sarto nyin tamandikatu itelukumfulo kuluyo killing ni nyanta dalasi gulimu anne jola nung wa sanka yaro kama.
And I gave them time to pay.
Andunga watu dila puri ya ukodojo.
They made the first payment of $5,000 each.
Itelkiliwo killing jori follow damuta kiliwo killing dalasi guli lulu dundi.
Which was $10,000.
Me yala kanyanta dalasi guli tang.
And they made a second payment of $5,000 each.
Itelnata jori fulanja kotake momondi dalasi guli lulu dundi.
Making $20,000.
Tatake dalasi guli mu anti saying.
And then they filed another report.
That
that money was also converted to my own use. And that was another case before Justice Algali. When I produced the receipts, payment to the Treasury, at the Basse Governor's Office, CJ asked me to go back to continue with my job. It was then that I got my transfer 3 days after. I could not complete the case. I left it pending.
Do you know what was the ultimate outcome?
Well, since I left Basse, I didn't follow up from BY Camara to know if the case has been completed.
So then you went into private practice.
Exactly, yes.
And during your long career of a private practitioner, you have come across egregious rights violations. Can you tell us about them?
Starting with the Ahmad Sow case. Yes, just like you rightly said,
Ko ya funu nyamin tonyala.
I had a lot of experience with rights violations.
Na kujamale jeme ya lonko abemu nyantatinya letika hadama la nyanto tinya.
Because starting with the case of the IGP versus Amadi Sow,
Damuta IGP ni Amadi Sow la kitola.
this is an illiterate man who is doing cattle business.
Nyumumoleti memman karang bari ninsi junole muatinu.
Resident where?
In Nyomi.
Abe siri nu nyomi le.
I can't recall the name of his village, but in Nyomi.
Hakilo botale de abota sate omentu bari nyomi kolem.
And he used to supply cattle to the president.
Atela kan ni si supply yolu di banko president la nuwotumo.
And gets paid for it.
Andu kajo.
Which president are you
President Juma Bemen?
The former president, Yaya Jammeh.
Membe president yala nunjang Yaya Jammeh.
But after 2 successful transactions,
Bari briyo firo du nyote mas fosi nyafula nyonkola.
the 3rd time,
Sinya sabanjang.
according to my client,
Ko nakiliano ya fanya nyami.
the president gave some money up to 1.3 or 4 million, but it's more than $1 million.
Bare president koto na ata kodo mendundi aseke million killing wuli keme saba wala wo mafang wala bara siata million killing tile dal.
And gave it to his direct aides.
Aya di ala doku lalle la meni alon koy bate fango bala doku wala.
He mentioned 2 names, Solo Bojang and Pa Bojang.
Ay mofla le tofo solo bojang nim pa bojang.
But then the money never reached my client.
Bare kodo nyim manna futan nakiliano ma.
After a while,
Birim wati tambita
President asked for the cattle.
president nata nyilin karo ke ni sol la kwala.
And they said they paid the money to the accused. who
Kadu
was my client,
itele kodo di nunte la kiliano lale.
and he failed to deliver the cattle.
Andunga manna ni solu nyili samba.
That
Would
led to
you
his-
say Hamadi Sow is from Dofan?
Dofan,
Ko
exactly.
Hamadi Sow abota satel to ikafoda me Ndofan.
Dofan,
Ndo fan le fon, ndo fan le.
exactly. And this led to his arrest
Ndo dalilo le asabu itata muta.
and refusal to grant him bail.
Andu inata balang kwate bella.
But this was a case of either theft or fraud
Imbekela case le me alon ko sunyaro le wana don tapala yale.
or obtaining by false pretenses.
Waran don ka kuma ko soto mobulu ani nyala me alon ko ani amman kuma soto
All of them were bailable offenses.
andu mi be mu tumir le ning adare tumiro le imare ka yesamba kiti do nyata no nyantola mu kam pour ka bel dila.
I will not equate it to even a criminal offense.
Ntata hana futandila kuto me alonka asike kuruya kujawoti.
But even if you want to go the criminal angle,
Yes.
Hanni adare ki jara kuja baro la koto fanna.
and that is all based on the assumption that the allegations were true.
No be ka sujini men wala mi di tumiro la me ya la mare kam foto nyala fanam.
It could be obtaining by false pretenses or fraud or something like that.
Sikeno ko aya ya fengo soto mole bulu tapale yala waranto faniya kan waranto ananyol.
Of course, it could be a straightforward breach of contract. Failure to deliver.
Membe tilin na fanka fo wala mindi ko contrat ko wala kan nabe mem tambeti tema wala nyindi ataboyta ala karo la pour ka timmandi.
But still on the criminal angle, it would have been a bailable offense.
Hani kabi nina da kuja baro la karo la loi la karo la wa han kabi loi ya nyanto di le amari la pour ka bail.
Why was bail not granted?
Mune ya sabu man bail di amari la.
Yes. There were so many things that were happening
Kuja male be keka nurumo.
behind the scenes.
Kolu koma.
I will say probably not even with the knowledge of the former president, Yaya Jammeh.
Nsafono fanko asekeno ya jamme membe president yala nurumo amambo kodulu fangulu kalama.
What were those?
Wala munti munku.
Now, in the instant case of Amadi Sow,
Amadi Sow atela kito ni lanya la karola.
those who received the money
kodo dita menula
and converted it to their own use.
inata kodo nyinta ka ke fanso
Alleged that it was Amadi Sow who received the money
nitellena ta foko ya kodo nyindi Amadi Solela
and failed to deliver.
ando Amadi manna ni solu nyuli samba
The victims become the complainants.
sayun mantoro lata men kan wala nata ke kalamir lati
And
rather,
Amadi,
the fraudsters became the accusers.
and I cannot say for certain whether the instruction for his arrest came from the president or from his aides, direct aides.
nda fono la purka Amadi Sow muta akangom botan yaya fangle ya wala alaw molu mennu e baye do kola wonya.
But the reason why he was refused bail was on executive orders, executive directives.
Bari dalilo me ya kendi ibalanta ko mota bella umu kanniti me yalon ko abota nyaton ko fangle la kangoda.
How do you know that?
te wolo nyaadi la
From the police. I went there to secure his bail.
Police wala yo fo nyande fango kumule tata je purka bail.
But there was no way that he could be granted bail. He was under investigation for more than 1 month.
Silaman soto no nya be nya si o nyama purka bail ando akisikisiro tata le fo karkile.
And he was in custody.
Ando duma bail amuto kono.
And what do you mean when you said there were executive orders
tilo ko
to
to
not grant him bail?
ilo ko to mon ni ko executive order wala executive sango kango wala
Let's
dita
try to understand this executive order.
nga kata pour nga fa mon ni executive order ti
What was it and from where it emanated?
mon mo anu akabono min dole ni executive
Yes,
orders
what I was trying to say is that
Ba kata kam purka men fo nun wala mu
the orders that the police were saying that the complaint against the accused person, that is Amadi Sow, was an executive complaint.
amunta
From the
itel
executive.
itel muka kuma kango memfo num police luka memfo ye memfo nyin Amadi Sow makate belno la wolem nyintiko kuma kango bota dulal to memmu bankola kunton koti.
And who was that?
wala mu jumatin
Obviously, then it was President Yaya Jammeh.
Koku wala senea kama utumo President Yaya Jammeh
And there was no way
andu silaman soto nun
that the police could grant him bail.
police wala si bail sono yandino nyame.
And what eventually happened?
mon na na ke nyala bang
He was finally charged after 6 weeks
Loku woro tambirimo ya tumi
and taken to Banjul Magistrates Court,
ya samba Banjul magistrate kiti bundala
where I applied and he was granted court bail.
dame ngasafero ke kiti bunda nata bail diala.
But the witnesses, key witnesses in this case,
Bari sede kumalu menu be kito nyinkono
refused to come to court.
balanta ay manson nala kiti bundala
Those are this Solo Bojang and Pa Bojang.
andu wolle mo nyimmo fuloti solo bojan nim pa bojan
Those who were the complainants
andu wolle fanal keta kalamir lalti
did not come to testify.
manson nala sede yarola
Rather, they relied on police witnesses
itel nata jiko sembe police sedo lela
to convict.
But police witnesses can only talk about hearsay.
but police wala say den do be kala kuma kan dum ko moyla kuma kan wala
This was exactly what happened.
andu aketa wole nyama fangode
I can recall filing a summons for the said Solo Bojan to come to court
nde fang hakilo ya muta nga samaniro ke pro solo bojan yene danko kiti
as a
bunda
defense witness,
pro asina lo sede yaro la katankandiro la
or
karo
refused to answer to the summons.
pro me yalo abara balanta pour kane danko samaniro la
And the excuse always is because of his busy schedule.
andu iteleka muneke kana ramoti wati ko do ko le siata mbulumma nyasoto.
Did you apply for bench warrant?
ina na kaito kuntle ba fo me bench warrant pour kata no kan
I did not go to that extent
mamfuta o temboto
because of the implications.
atu ko dunta nyoka nyame.
What were the implications?
mun nan kulti me alon ko wala be ku kala dundam kulti
If you compel the attendance of a witness who is not willing to come to court,
niye mo la ko lanya jibe sedo me yalon ka balanta pour kana kiti bundala
he becomes a hostile witness.
Akana ke sede jawoleti.
So I let it go and proceeded and closed my case.
Ntenda wotonga kito nyintama ni wonyale nga da sorong.
Well, there's a way out. You declare them hostile and you cross-examine them.
Silo be jere siktano ni menna yi fanga ko sede jawolem isi sa da soron na je isi nati no le yena yi nyininka ni.
It's a nuclear bomb. You are afraid that it will detonate on you.
That is the risk. It's risky. Not only that, I know that it was practically impossible for any officer to arrest these two, any of them, and bring them to the court.
In your view, what happened in that case? Was it justice or travesty of justice?
Itala miraro case nyimuna kiraje for tilingola kiraje bang po tilingo ya ngojin na ba.
I'm coming to the end. At the judgment stage, the magistrate sensed that this is an innocent man. And during the proceedings, there were officers in plain clothes coming to monitor the proceedings. And report back to the two officers who were the fraudsters. The magistrate hinted the innocence of the accused person in his defense.
Magistrate nata kalimo fo ala diamolu kono kito kuntu nyala karola ko mari mantanake.
Do you recall what he said to hint, to suggest that this guy was innocent?
Ya kilo samura no kiti ndirla nying ay muna fo nyintu mir mo nyinna ka fo ko nyimmo mo senangolati amam fenk.
Yes, when we filed summons on Solo to appear,
bring a summary kaito de la prusolo ene danku.
We failed to secure his attendance.
Amanson na la kane danku.
The magistrate hinted that he is proceeding to his judgment.
Between magistrate na tanyimfuka betenten na purka kito kundu.
And will set free anyone who is innocent.
And momondi ya lonka mankuke ibe abulalale.
And then when a day was fixed for the judgment,
rina ta lumuta lume wo kiti kunto bekela.
And sensing that the magistrate was going to acquit and discharge the accused person,
so bo keta ko nyimmo me ya mutateng ibe abulala le ka abulaeta,
he was fired.
Ya magistrate nyimbay.
The day before the judgment.
Amunta ni sinim kito be nyimbe kuntula binyol lungo ya bay.
And do you believe that was coincidence or it was designed?
For itala miraro rom kula de me ya lonko atombeta fele ban fo kula me ya lonko ya parendi akamale.
That was designed specially for that case.
Yo parendi o kito da manne kamma yo ke wala kamma.
Of the implication of the innocence of the accused person will bounce back on others who obviously will bear the brunt.
Gatu ya jako ye nyimme mutateng ninga natake moti ye membula ku aseneata nataje ko mankuke wo koduno bina murula molle kan men ya lonko wolle mo tapale wolde.
Who signed the dismissal letter?
O bayri letter o njumale ya sign.
I did not see the letter.
Ndema letter o njede.
But I can recall the magistrate calling me
baren hakilo ya nyimuta magistrate ni yen kumandi
to come with my client
runninna kiliano ni yena
deliver the judgment before he leaves office.
Kito kuntu jannabe bola office.
And unfortunately, it was not possible. Because of the fact that the accused person lives in the North Bank. And it's difficult for him to get to the court. Next day, he packed his luggage and left the court. Funnily, after 1 month, he appeared again back to the same court. And the first thing he did when he resumed office was to deliver the judgment. And this time convicted and sentenced the accused person to 4 years in prison.
What changed?
Mune falinta.
Obviously, within the 1 month period, something transpired that warranted a change from his acquittal to his conviction.
Wo kiti wo karikilo uche nyinkono ko falinta wala kono me yalon ko nunto nyanta bulalale bari sila ina tayela ma ya sorong.
I was not privy to that.
Mambo kalama nunde.
But I could sense that there was a change in circumstances
Bari ngata sobi nyina ko kulu la nya kono le mfalimu keta woldo
due to the demeanor of the magistrate while delivering his judgment.
Katu magistrate nyim fango be kito kuntula tumo men akalamo be nu nyamin.
Loss of one's livelihood and regaining one's livelihood.
Exactly.
I
could see
Who
the
was
change.
that magistrate?
Then it was Magistrate Emmanuel Nkia. He started as a magistrate in the Banjul Magistrate Court before going to the High Court.
Follow Banjul Magistrate Kiti Bundale la Jannabita High Court.
How did you feel when you saw that?
I knew automatically what happened, although I was not privy to it, because the only condition for his return to office was to get the accused person convicted so that other people will be deemed to be innocent. Exactly.
But that would not be your only case, as at this time, wherein certain terrible things happen.
Tell
us about the case of Njoguba, Bakari Jame, and Lamin Jabate.
Sorry, it's a typographical error. It's Pahari Jame, not Bakari Jame.
Pahari Jame?
It's Pahari Jame.
Savero le filoketa savero dale Pahari Jame lom Bakari Jamete.
This was a very difficult case.
You
can say one of the most difficult I had. Because I coincided with their appearance and arrangement before the Banjul Magistrates Court. No, arrangement. They were all kind of shocked and worried about what is going to happen to them. They are in court without any legal representation. I called Njogu aside. He explained to me that, well, he just finds himself in court. He not have time to prepare for a lawyer. Because they just came to report at the police station and they were forwarded to the court. Because of my learned friends, Jobate and Pahari, I decided to represent them even before negotiating for any fee. But then the economic crime decree was like an offense that was not bailable. That was one of the charges against them. They were also charged for abuse of office. I did my level best to secure bail for them by the magistrate, then magistrate Lamin Baye. And for the first time, bail was granted by a magistrate in cases of economic crimes.
ñinom sinya foloti ye bail di kito kono me ya lonko aketa banko la fankatinya kito leti.
But were there any provisions in the economic crime decree which suggested that the economic crime was not bailable?
Dingirabe jele ban wulwa nyin kono ba men ya lonko ni mo tumi ko e banko la fanko yo le tinya fo dingirabe wulwa buko nyin kono ba men ya itandiko imari nyin imanya ne ke belba.
There's nothing in the decree which says that economic crime is not bailable.
Fem te wo sarto nyin kono wulwa nyin men sa me ya foko nyin banko fankatinya tumiro imanya na mari bail.
But those who are charged with that offense are mostly political offenders.
Bari jama ikamenu tumiro fasonga ulukake moleti men ya lonko politiko ye inoma sata wale la ka politiko jawya
they are mostly remanded in custody.
Adun jama ikebe sambari manle yetara mutu okono.
Why do you think that was the case?
Mune ya sabu ite amra wala mkuu wala nyati.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Why do you think that was the case?
Then we had Nigerian magistrates as well at the Banjul Magistrates Court. And he was more senior than Magistrate Mbaye, Lamin Mbaye. And he takes most of the economic crime cases and sends all of them to Maltu. But this was the first economic crime case before your Wasip Mbaye. And he granted them bail. But the moment they step out of the court, they were all arrested again.
For the same or different offenses?
For the same offenses.
But that would have amounted to contempt.
Certainly, that is a contempt of court. But in those days, the state can never be held in contempt.
Well, you don't hold the state in contempt, but you can hold state officials in contempt.
It is a cumbersome process. Because first there must be a complaint against those who are in contempt, because it's outside the court. This is why they are not arrested in court. But those who were committing the acts of contempt are legally advised. Because this is not the first time that accused persons are arrested outside the court. So when they were arrested on the same charges, this time on the allegation that they were transferring the case to the High Court.
That amounted to obstruction of the implementation of a court order.
Yes, certainly I know that is criminal because that's an interference with court processes, court orders. But then within a short time, whilst others are languishing in prison, waiting for their cases, the face appeared before the High Court. Remember, in 3 days. And then, The magistrate who was in Banjul magistrate Kia,
Magistrate member Banjul magistrate kiti bundala magistrate Kia.
appointed as a judge.
Ya tombo nka kiti telati George.
And was assigned to hear that case.
Andu ye nyindo ko dia tela pride how kitota.
I don't know whether it's
coincidence or by design.
Yeah,
Malon
exactly.
fo ko le benta bang fodu ya wuliya kamale kotake.
But of course, the outcome could easily be
Determined.
predicted. But Mr. Chair, it's almost 5 o'clock. Let's leave it at that for today, and the witness would finish tomorrow. I hope, Mr. Mboge, that would not interfere with your schedule.
Yes.
There is no prospect, there is no likelihood that we can finish today.
Yeah, I believe that.
So give the commission some priority and appear tomorrow morning and finish your testimony.
I will advise myself when I leave here and see how.
Mr. Mboge, you cannot leave this to advise to yourself. Absolutely. You would act accordingly and do the necessary and inform all other courts that you have an appearance before the commission. I am sure they would understand.
No, it's not about appearing before the commission. It's about the arrangements for my program tomorrow.
Indeed.
Yes.
So make the necessary adjustment and commit to be here tomorrow morning at 9.
At 9?
At 9.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is that fully confirmed, witness?
He would be much obliged.
I will
Mr.
be
Chair.
obliged, Mr. Chair. I'll be obliged to come to the commission.
Thank you
and
very
finish my
much
testimony.
for your attendance this afternoon. Thank you, Council. We will resume tomorrow, 10 o'clock sharp in the morning. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.